Welcome to RTN Member Voices. I'm Robert Firpo Cappiello, Editor-in-Chief at Hospitality Technology. Our guest is Amber Trendell, Senior Director of Strategy at Oracle Restaurants. Amber, welcome to RTN Member Voices.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you having us.
We're psyched to have you, and I want to give you a minute to introduce yourself and the Oracle Restaurants mission. Tell our Hospitality Technology and Restaurant Technology Network audience who you are and what you do.
Yeah, happy to. So as Robert said, I'm Amber Trendell, and I lead the strategy for Oracle Restaurants. And Oracle Restaurants actually reflects a recent rebrand from the previous food and beverage. The impetus for this change is fairly simple. For us, the reality is restaurants today take on myriad forms: quick service, table service, fast casual food truck, virtual brand, stadium concession, suite, canteen, grab and go, just walk out, right? There are myriad incarnations now of a restaurant, but the reality is what we find is the aspirations, the challenges, and the opportunities for all of these operators have the same common denominators. Number one, they want to know, how do I acquire new customers, expand sales channels, and improve customer lifetime value? Number two, how am I retaining talent? How am I streamlining operations and driving margins? And number three, probably one of the ones that is, kind of like less sexy in the boardroom, but is certainly a pain point: how can I simplify my tech stack without sacrificing agility and innovation? And so our brand shift removes any ambiguity regarding the business we're in and the mission we're on, which is really to deliver a world-class, secure enterprise platform so that our customers can give their customers complete flexibility in how they discover and decide what and where to eat next.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And it speaks directly to the Hospitality Technology and Restaurant Technology Network missions as well. So our audience loves to hear on this series, RTN Member Voices. They're really interested in hearing your unique perspective on current industry challenges and opportunities. And I always like to point out that sometimes the challenges and the opportunities are the same thing. Yeah. So we're eager to hear your thoughts on that, Amber.
Yeah, so I'll frame that in the same kind of three core areas. So number one, how am I acquiring my next loyal customer, right? It's not enough to just acquire a new customer, because the reality is the cost of acquiring new customers just continues to increase, myriad marketing and sales channels to support, and so on. So being able to intelligently tune your channel spend, for example, based on order origin and purchases back to anonymous and loyalty members is important. And what we find is that there are only really a few operators that enjoy high frequency repeat visits. And so understanding the performance of a channel in terms of not only basket size and margin, but its contribution to converting to loyalty and repeat visit is key. What we've seen is engagement-based loyalty in particular challenges the notion of being a cost center and really prioritizes engagement and rewards that are not discounts, are driving material improvements in loyalty member growth. In fact, in our specific experience, once a brand crosses the chasm from discount and promotion to real engagement-based strategy, they're seeing an average 30% year-on-year growth of loyalty membership. In the operational aspects, this is a huge category, but the basic premise is grounded in the fact that once the consumer's made a decision to either purchase from you online or physically show up in the restaurant, the brand has to execute whatever the expectation was set forth. So that can take, again, myriad forms, and the orchestration behind the scenes of order fulfillment, planning, forecasting, and delivery are all nonlinear now, right? Because I can pick and choose how I dip in and out of my brand experience, and I may change that on a daily basis. So couple that with increasing cost of basically everything, labor, raw goods, you're talking about a fairly challenging environment to operate in. And then lastly, this kind of brings it all together. The pace of innovation in restaurants, I think, has really hit a stride. So prioritizing technology investments quickly, piloting, determining if you're on the right track, determining if you're on the mark for internal rate of return, and then rolling out and getting franchisees or operations on board is a pretty monumental task that never ends. We recently held our annual Restaurant Summit event, Robert, and we held a panel with CIOs from around the world talking about the notion of digital transformation. And the consensus is that's way too narrow to characterize where we're at as an industry. And what we're really talking about is business transformation. And with that comes a lot of risk, but also, to your point, a lot of reward if you're in a position of agility. So, you know, for us, I mean, we think about all this and we think about the cost of capital, and, you know, that creates a difficult climate for investment. So a lot of hard decisions have to be made, and they have to be made quickly, which is why for us, from a business integration perspective, a microservices API, composable and headless architecture just makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm. And this is, it's really exciting, you know, talking about moving away from a cost center and even moving away from like digital, you know, to your point, digital transformation is not, doesn't begin to describe how important it is. So my follow-up is usually to talk about how technology can be directly applied to some of these challenges and opportunities. I know you've addressed some of them, but I'm thinking also now, like that leader who needs to translate, okay, here's what we want to accomplish. Where do I apply technology and how? And I would love to hear, you know, what thoughts you have on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think in this in the same kind of three core categories, from a sales channel acquisition and loyalty perspective, you have to be able to test and iterate, right? You have to be able to understand channel performance. Every single investment I make, whether it's selling on Instagram or selling via a tablet on my table, costs money. Costs money from a technology deployment perspective, costs money in terms of potentially hardware, certainly costs money from a process management and change management perspective. So for us, we really look at, you know, what can I take off the shelf from a platform perspective? How do I then integrate kind of innovative new ideas and technologies from a third party perspective? How do I then, again, measure performance and then kind of pilot and roll out at scale? We've done a lot of work with operators, certainly from the deployment perspective, to improve their ability to rapidly roll out. I think that's really important when you're thinking about a technology decision. But I think staff and staff enablement are also really core areas for us. So it really comes down to kind of, you know, from the board down, what do you want to achieve? Is it net new sales? Is it more loyalty? Is it more loyalty members? And then being able to get to market quickly, test, and be willing to fail and fail fast, and then try something new. I think one of the, you know, things that people get maybe kind of bogged down is, you know, technology teams have these great ideas and they roll out the technology, and operations just expects it to be the winner, right? This is going to solve all the problems. Well, the reality is it may not, and that's okay. But you need to be able to move swiftly on to the next idea. And that's, you know, really, again, back to the whole architecture. That's a critical piece of the puzzle from an enterprise perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, as we're talking, you know, when I think enterprise restaurant, I often, my mind goes to QSR, fast casual. I think that's logical and somewhat accurate. At the same time, though, we talk a lot about fine dining, and how is fine dining, rebounding from store closures during the pandemic? And some people even ask, can technology help save fine dining? I think that's a little exaggerated, but I know you have some thoughts about that, and I would love to devote a minute or two to that.
Yeah, happy to. So we have a large footprint in hotels, casinos, cruise ships, as well as several notable fine dining brands. And again, we actually held our annual hotel summit this spring, and I had the pleasure of running a panel with CIOs from luxury hotels and resorts. And one of the things that struck me was the comment that even millionaires want to order on their phone, right? Which really brought me back to the mission and our commitment to give operators the ability to operationalize infinite choice. That takes technology and intelligent solutions. But just to name a few quick ones off the top of my head, I think you see a lot of synergies between fine dining and luxury retail. The technology almost has to be hidden, if you will, but it has to play a role in delivering insight and, again, choice, because you may have fine dining customers that want to use their mobile device and you have other ones that don't, right? And so operationalizing that choice is really important. Personalization and offer optimization. How are you giving your staff kind of a digital black book, if you will, so that they're not maybe committing everything to memory, but having some insights on, last purchase, frequent purchases, affinities, look-alike lists, if you will, in kind of a marketing speak type category, clienteling. I think voice has a big role here to play potentially, and it's one of the things that we're looking at closely. So you think about voice ordering in a drive-through, you may not necessarily think of it in a fine dining, but there's really not a huge leap for us to make once we get kind of the earbud technology we need to manage the voice ordering capability within kind of a high kind of white noise or environmental noise perspective. Your fine dining experience is no longer driven by anything handheld, but the server can speak to and use their wake words to send your order to the kitchen. And so that's an area that we're looking at. I think that's a really great opportunity for fine dining. And then certainly analytics, right? It's not enough to know kind of what happened, the descriptive kind of core functionality that you need from reporting, but you need to know what's going to happen. And then eventually what you really want to do is make things happen. And that's where prescriptive analytics come into play. And those are all areas where, again, I think from being within the broader Oracle ecosystem, we have a lot of advantage in terms of leveraging Oracle cloud infrastructure, AI services, generative AI agents. So we're looking at a lot of opportunities and basically rolling that into core restaurant functionality. It's really exciting time.
Yeah, I was just going to say some of the things you said sound really exciting about changing a little bit and for the better the fine dining experience. It's very cool. I'd love to give you the last word to our hospitality technology and restaurant technology network audience. What are your closing thoughts, Amber?
Yeah, so I want to say thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for the customers, partners, just the industry at large. It's a super fun and dynamic space, and we're honored, honestly, to be the platform for global enterprise operators and they really trust us to run their businesses. We remain steadfast in our mission to help restaurant operators transact in new ways and put the customer at the center of every business decision. And we do believe that AI services within our industry specific applications are going to be a game changer for clients. And so we're really excited to bring these to the market at scale. And we're also excited to see, I think, what I touched on previously, a little bit of a blurring of the lines in terms of retail, travel, restaurants. We're increasingly seeing demand for things that maybe are a little bit outside of the traditional restaurant operation as operators look to diversify. And so again, I think Oracle is in a really unique position because we have a portfolio of solutions for all of the consumer industries. So as they think about that diversification, we can create those experiences and deliver that solution today. So it's, again, exciting time to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity.
It sure is. Amber Trendell from Oracle Restaurants, thank you so much for joining RTN Member Voices.
My pleasure. Thank you, Robert.